we welcome you to Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. Matt Money Smith here, along with the producer of Power Rankings, the old Zeuser, DanHanzus. And listen, he's still going. He doesn't like us saying it, being the humble man that he is. But this time of year, we always like to acknowledge one of the 4 producers of Leprechaun in Space, which finds itself into heavy rotation over the next week and a half. So congratulations on that.
That's
Dan. I know
free
you don't
money
like
in
to
the
talk
mailbox.
That's what I mean.
Residual check.
You know, it's like a 3-week window where you can really cash in on that thing. So I want to make sure I mention that. Here's a look at the way things got started with our man, the old Zeuser at the top. The Arizona Cardinals, understandable, 7-0, coming off a dominating performance against the Houston Texans, who we will likely see much later in the show when we share the 4th and final quadrant of our teams in order, according to this individual right here. And why don't we get started with number 1, but let's also tie in, Dan, number 6 there, because the Cardinals and the Packers are going to give us a heck of a Thursday night football game on a short week here on NFL Network, Fox, and Amazon Prime.
Big W for NFL Network. Right. And you know, when they made the schedule, remember the Cardinals were supposed to be the also-ran in the NFC West. So you thought, throw them a bone on Thursday night. Well, now, look where we are now, 1 versus 6 in the power rankings. And, you know, I really like the Cardinals all the way around right now. And one thing that really jumps out to me is last season, in Nuke Hopkins' first season with Arizona with Kyler Murray, sometimes it felt like it was Kyler to nuke or bust. But this year, it's so varied, the attack. It is still Hopkins, of course, but it's A.J. Green who has some juice left, Christian Kirk, Rondell Moore, and yes, Zach Ertz. There he is, a veteran, a Super Bowl hero, and he looked like he had some
10 years younger.
A guy that I think has something to prove. So the Cardinals have a varied attack, and that's before you get to a very good defense.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, you know, that's the difference, right, is when they were trying to put this team together and they're drafting these incredibly athletic linebackers like Isaiah Simmons, and you're like, okay, well, is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? And then you have Budda Baker. Is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? And you're kind of scratching your head. Is this going to work? It's working. I mean, it is working. And then they go out and get a vet like J.J. Watt to help anchor that line with Chandler Jones. This is one of the best defenses in the league to complement one of, as you just mentioned, most diversified and complementary offenses. We didn't even mention the fact that Connor and Edmonds are both running the ball effectively. I think it was I want to say in that game they had at least 50 yards for 4 different players, had 50 yards receiving. That's how much they're spreading out. The other thing, too, is Kyler's not running it. Like, they have not yet unleashed that incredible weapon that might be one of the best running quarterbacks in the game, and he's barely having to do any of that because of how good their rush attack is.
And just the threat of that, even if it hasn't happened yet, that makes everything better for the Cardinals. So I think this is a team that's set up really well for Thursday night because we heard the news that came down on Monday about Devontae Adams. His COVID-19 diagnosis, it looks very hit or miss whether he's going to be able to play, more on the side of not playing. So you take him out of the mix with the Packers, that's an issue because with the Packers, okay, Bobby Tonyan got in the mix a little bit this past week, Alan Lazard as well. But on balance, the Packers are kind of like what the Arizona Cardinals were last year, where it's the star QB, the star wide receiver, then what?
They can do damage.
You take Adams out of the mix, as fantastic as he is, what's left? So this sets up.
That's what's left.
Right. This sets up very well for the Cardinals in their building, although there are going to be, because there weren't a lot of people in Arizona watching that Houston game. There's going to be a lot of Packers fans there. That's going to be interesting as well.
Yeah, I guess as someone who's had to live through that quite a bit, I don't think it has the impact that some people make it out to be. You know, if anything, the players are comfortable playing in that building. They know the sight lines. They're comfortable. The Arizona Cardinal fans are still, I think, strong enough where maybe it's a 50-50 split, 60-40 split. You know, it's not going to be a 90% takeover.
Hey, Cardinals fans, fill up that building.
Sure. Hey, See Red. They've got their own slogan, See Red. How about the defenses, though? Because that's the other thing we were wondering. And, man, it started out bad for the Packers against the Saints. 5 touchdowns from Jameis Winston in that opener. And they've settled in since. And you see here, both of these teams. Again, I think Arizona is in the conversation as one of the best defenses in the league. But Green Bay's no slouch. You know, and they have played some pretty darn good offenses as well. You know, you can only play the teams on your schedule, but you see here they're basically top 10 in everything, and that's ultimately what this could come down to, is can they put up the type of performance that the 49ers did against the Arizona Cardinals to just kind of keep this game in the balance so that one guy, the reigning MVP, can perhaps be the difference maker in this Thursday night game.
Yeah, and it should be said, if you watch the game tape of Packers-Washington at Lambeau on Sunday, not overly impressive, a Packers performance.
Right.
Washington kind of went up and down the field on them. They outgained them, if not for some red zone malfunctions and that weird
giving
up himself. Taylor Heineke touchdown that got ripped away, which I just hate that. The competition committee's got to handle that. That's a different game. So I don't know. I don't trust the Packers yet. I know they've won 6 in a row after that week 1.
Right.
But they're going to have to show me. So this is a prove-it game to me on Thursday.
You know, to some degree, and I'm pulling up the Cardinals schedule now just to remind myself, because look, they rout the Browns, and we're feeling great. They rout the Texans. We're feeling great. But to me, this is a good inventory game for the Cardinals because there are still a lot of skeptics. Look, unfortunately, preseason rankings, you still have confirmation bias. It's very hard for us to move on from that. So the fact that we all projected the Cardinals to finish 4th in this division, and now they're running roughshod over the league, I think if they do it against Aaron Rodgers and especially make him look the human Aaron Rodgers as opposed to the superhuman Aaron Rodgers, I think it's going to go a long way for keeping this team in the number 1 or number 2 slot and at the top of the NFC moving forward. And again, remember, the number 1 seed this year is so much more valuable because the 6 teams behind it will have to play in the first round. And it's no longer the top 2 teams that get the bye, but the top 1.
Right.
And for the Cardinals to earn that, man, you're going to feel awfully good about them making their way out here to L.A. for Super Bowl 56.
Week 1 of their show, yes. Power rankings, where were the Cardinals?
I'm going to go 17.
16.
Look at that.
So they've been on the rise. Packers have been a top 5 team all year. Basically.
Much more interesting. That is a much more interesting question if you take out the word Cardinals and plug in the word Bengals. Where were the Bengals week 1 preseason going into the year? Because now they are the second-ranked team in the AFC. And while they're ranked second at number 7 overall in the AFC, how do you feel about ranking them 7th? How do you feel about this Bengals team after a throttling of the Baltimore Ravens?
Well, for the record, they were ranked number 29 going into week 1, and that was just the viewpoint of them. Remember, Jamar Chase couldn't catch. He didn't like the way the football felt and looked, and a lot of us, myself included, got sucked into, it's same old Bengals, But this is not the same old Bengals.
No.
And I think it snuck up on all of us that, yes, Joe Burrow making the jump. He went from a rookie with promise, number 1 overall pick, coming off a really bad injury, to now a star. He is a star quarterback. Jamar Chase, transcendently talented. He is making plays every week and setting records. Joe Mixon is healthy. He iced the game with a big run. And I just thought what we saw against Baltimore, and we'll talk about Baltimore in a little bit, whether or not they're a true elite team. But what we saw, their ability to close that game out, and also just the defense stepped up and said, no, Lamar Jackson, you don't get to get back in this game. We're sending your fans home early today.
So a couple things.
So impressive.
One, I want to point out, let's not forget, when it was the 2021 draft and they had their choice of Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater, or Jamar Chase, what was the conversation? It was, you got to protect Burrow. You cannot afford to let that guy keep taking hits like he did last year, which ultimately ended his season. But the second half of that conversation was, Joe Burrow wants Jamar Chase. He wants his LSU national championship receiver. That is what he has advocated for. So just remember when you hear those stories about Russell Wilson wants to be involved in personnel, Aaron Rodgers wants to be involved in personnel, sometimes it pays off to listen to your quarterback. When Joe Burrow tells the front office of Cincinnati, I want Jamar Chase, we are a special combination, we'll figure out the offensive line, go get him. Now you're seeing the fruits of that conversation. And my goodness, this isn't just the best-looking rookie receiver in the league. This right now looks like the best receiver in the league. That's how good he looks, how polished those routes are, how dominant he is in the open field, just breaking ankles all over the place, leaving bones from Cincinnati to Houston to Jacksonville and wherever he's going on the field. It has been so impressive. But, Dan, I think more impressive, we didn't talk about the defense. We talked about what free agent they let go to New York. We didn't talk about the fact they brought in Hendrickson. Sam Hubbard took a step. Ogunjobi's been a revelation. The defense has been fantastic. They executed a perfect script to bottle in Lamar Jackson and shut down that Baltimore offense. I am so impressed with that side of the ball.
And even the most optimistic fans, when you're in the summer and you look at a team, you're like, well, if this happens and this goes right and this guy develops like this and this guy stays healthy, then we'll be a good team.
Right.
Like the Bengals are like the once-a-decade team where all those things that seemed like they needed to go right have all come together here. And that's why I don't think it's a fluke. I think Cincinnati is a team that is as good as anyone in that division. I have them one spot ahead of the Ravens right now. So I think they are a team that can win a division. And with that collection of skill players and the special vibe in that building right now, they can make a run in January. That's crazy that we're talking about Cincinnati.
And by the way, on the back end of Wuzier and Bates, like they have it top front to back on that defense. Let's shift to the Ravens, and I'm just going to get this out of the way because people will say it's sour grapes after watching the Chargers, a team for which I call games, get absolutely annihilated by the Ravens. To me, that was just an outlier. The Chargers played terrible. They absolutely, got whooped by the Ravens, and that's fine. But, man, you look at Derek Carr, 400-plus yards. You look at Joe Burrow, 400-plus yards. The Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes put up 350 and 3 touchdowns. Like, they are giving up giant numbers to opposing quarterbacks because that secondary has got holes all over the place. And to me, that is a major concern for this team moving forward.
And I see that. You could look at their depth concerns because of all the injuries and some of the inconsistencies, whether it's in the running game or in the pass defense. You could say, okay, there's reasons why the Ravens could get picked off here. But I also have seen that as bad as the Chargers played, and to your credit, Money, you were upfront about that last week, that you felt like that was more a Chargers collapse than a Ravens surge. I just think the way this team is coached and the quarterback there and the fact that they will get healthier and they will continue to figure things out with Wink Martindale, that they are going to be around come January. They are a team that will be playing in January and we'll be talking about, wow, they've overcome a lot, because for all the things that have happened with Baltimore, to hit the bye at 5-2 is a big achievement, and I don't see a collapse coming. Put it that way.
I think of all the teams in the top 10, that's the one that I'm circling as I'm a little bit nervous about them. Speaking of 1 through 8, we now have 9 through 16. And boy, there's a couple 5-2 teams in there, particularly one at number 10 that put it on a couple squads that you have considerably higher than them. And Dan, that leads to some folks getting awfully upset out there that the Titans are all the way down at number 10.
I do.
Look at this.
Oh, yeah.
Villius. Titans still 10th in power rankings, but Bills, apparently some dude named Bills is doing his own power rankings, stay 3rd. Bills could have easily lost to the Chiefs. No, they couldn't have. They absolutely throttled the Chiefs.
I don't want to hear that stuff.
And the Titans best the Bills and make Chiefs look stupid. What goes on in your head? Now, the last part you're going to have to answer.
Isn't it early for this segment?
A little early for that. Yeah, you could have Velius, you could have simply said, Titans at 10 is way too low. They've got an identity. They've knocked off 2 elite teams. Why are they at 10?
Yeah, well, it comes down to, first of all, I don't care about the records. I don't look at the standings when I put this together, and I do absolutely have a ton of respect for what they did Monday night against Buffalo. I think they caught the Chiefs at the perfect time. I'm not taking it away from them, but when I look at where the Titans are now, playing in a weak division, I factor in the big picture with the team, not just what's happened the last 2 weeks. I still think those teams I have ahead of them are all better. And it comes down to that. Like, I would pick the Chargers, the Ravens, and the Bengals right now in a big head-to-head matchup. That's just where I am, but that does not mean that I don't like the Titans, because the Titans are the number 10 team in the league. So I see them as a real threat and a team that's battle-tested and steps up in big moments and has Derrick Henry. But let's calm down about putting them in the Super Bowl. They've also lost to the Jets.
2 things. One, this is a football cliche, but I do believe it's a cliche because it holds true. You got to have an identity to be an elite team. This team has an identity. Yes. You know what you're going to get. They show up, they get off the bus, and they say, there he is. Good luck stopping him. And if you can figure that out, we're going to play action you as they did against the Chiefs all game long with A.J. Brown, who had a dominant performance. 2, corrections and retractions on this guy. I was watching the Monday Nighter a couple of weeks ago against the Colts. Or who was it that Bills. They beat on Monday? Against the Bills. And I can't remember if it was Lewis or if it was Brian that said it, but they said, and there he is, Harold Landry, one of the most feared pass rushers in all the NFL. And I was like, nobody says that. I've never heard somebody say Harold Landry. Exactly.
Yep.
When they are able to get a pass rush, particularly Harold Landry, who's got 7.5 sacks now, yes, that changes a lot for this Titans team moving forward.
How long have the Titans been looking for a pass rusher that could change things and take some pressure off their secondary? It's a big deal. But, Money, do you see – I guess you don't like the Ravens, but you can't have the Titans higher than 9 right now, right?
I would put them ahead of the Ravens right now. Yeah, so they would be, let's see, I would have them ahead. You know what? I'd probably put them ahead of the Chargers. I think the Chargers are still searching for some answers on that defensive side of the ball. So I would probably have them up to 8.
Sorry, right. Titans fans, but don't be so touchy. I mean, it's just a football list after all.
No, it's not.
Coming after me.
It's power rankings penned by the old Zeuser. It's more than just a football list. When we return,
that's true, actually.
We're going to get you some fantasy finds done through an algorithm. Players you ought to be starting on your fantasy squad or make sure you pick up in daily. We'll get to that as well. Time to pick some nits. That's what we're going to do. Pick some nits.
All right.
Rams, are they okay at 6? Are they a little low? Where should they be? We'll get to all that next with our Cynthia Freeland and her predictive analytics.
How dare you challenge thee?
Hey, it's National Tight End Day, so you know we're going to go in, all right? We setting the tone today.
Ball out and eat, man.
Y'all make some noise, we'll put on the show. Yes, sir.
Let's go!
Block, release, catch, spike, touchdown.
National Tight End Day. Hey, go crazy.
This guy's pretty good at football.
Way to be physical. I've been watching Joe's film, trying to learn from the best.
Gotta go high, then low.
High,
Then low.
Let's make sure we keep playing like that. Hey, I done told y'all.
This game on Natty Tight End Day.
That was fun.
And we welcome you into Power Moves presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. It is time for the premier predictive analyst in all the land, Cynthia Freeland, to poke holes in the old Zeusers post-Week 7 production. One of my favorite moments of the week. Cynthia, you got to look at the numbers. Your thoughts, and where would you like to begin?
Well, I'm sitting here looking kind of towards the top, and now this is now as opposed to a few weeks ago. And I think the Rams have taken a big step forward. In fact, I think they actually might have passed the Cowboys, who you have them ranked below on your rankings, DanHanzus. When I look at this offense along with this defense, I think it's interesting to see in the beginning of the season, we thought maybe Cam Akers' replacement, Darrell Henderson, wouldn't step up and kind of give him that run support that they needed. But then between him and Matthew Stafford just absolutely lighting it up and getting them out of holes if they end up finding themselves in them, I think this team is like really should be ahead of the Cowboys. I understand there's a head-to-head there, but ahead of the Cowboys is where I think they are today.
Just because you have the most beautiful floral arrangement background of anyone in the game right now doesn't mean you can pick on me there and be accusatory. Listen, Cynthia, I love this Rams team. I think they're a lot of fun to watch. I'm not even going to put too much into the fact that they needed the entire 4 quarters to take down the Lions in their building on Sunday. But I do think they're just a tick behind the Cowboys, with the caveat that if Dak Prescott's calf acts up, and everyone is just assuming it's going to be fine. I mean, if his calf acts up and he is going to be a marginalized player, that changes everything. But I think where the Cowboys are right now, there's where they should be, just the tick above of the Rams.
And look, I mean, I assume we're just splitting hairs here, right? We're talking about number 4 versus number 5. And to me, it's defensively, right? Both of these teams have exceptional skill players. I think you'd give the nod to the Cowboys as opposed to what the Rams have going with the receivers, how great Dalton Schultz has been, Zeke Elliott. But defensively, just every time a big play needs to be made, there's Jalen Ramsey, there's Aaron Donald. That's the difference.
Well, what about Mr. Diggs in the secondary for the Cowboys? And by the way, a 4-5 quibble on the power rankings,
Sure.
Cynthia. What else you got?
Listen, that just means you're doing a really good job, but I don't want to give you any compliments whatsoever. Okay. So I'm also going to take umbrage with where you have the Colts ranked. I think we've seen them take a big step forward, and now that their O-line is healthy, come on. Look at what Carson Wentz is able to do. We have to give a nod here to Gerard Johnson, one of his quarterback coaches. This guy's an awesome play caller. He's had to deal with a lot of interesting, weird start things. I mean, spraining 2 ankles on one play is kind of unheard of. But now behind this O-line and with Jonathan Taylor actually looking like what we thought he was going to look like, this is a Colts team that's probably better than just average.
I'm with you, Cynthia. I think you got it too low, Zeuser. And because, look, if this team ends up getting those field goals, and I know there's a lot of those games you can play with a bunch of teams, but you mentioned this, Cynthia, right? We've got a large enough sample size, and we're seeing teams trending in one direction or the other. And to me, the Colts are trending up. With Carson Wentz healthy, this is what we thought Frank Reich, Carson Wentz might look like. They have great skill players. They have arguably the best offensive line in the league when it's healthy. And to me, especially in that division, I like the idea of them being more in that 12-13 range, even though, because again, it's one game against the Titans that they absolutely should have won. But everything that could have gone wrong went wrong with the kicking situation.
Okay, I'm with you, Money. I'm with Cindy on this one, that the Colts are a team on the rise. If you look at the power rankings, they've gone from 24 to 16 over the last 2 weeks. So that I agree they're also trending up. But it is so important. This game coming up at Lucas Oil Stadium, they need to beat the Titans, because if they don't, they're done. They're cooked. They can win a wild card potentially, but they are not going to win that division. So you beat the Titans in your building on Sunday. Not an impossible ask, as good as Tennessee has played the last 2 weeks. If you could do that, they will be around that 12, maybe 10 range, 10 to 12 range, but not quite. I'm in a little bit of a hold, but they are marching upwards, Cindy.
Were you just taking notes? During that, were you just taking some good notes there?
It's multitasking during the broadcast.
And you know what? I can tell you, Cynthia, as I'm looking at it right now, he is not drawing Snoopy's or Bart Simpson's. It does say number 24 to number 16. Those are legitimate notes. You want to see legitimate notes and lots of them? Head on over to NFL.com/Freeland. But before we get to that, we got fantasy finds. You've been doing this with your top 5, and they've been cashed in, Cynthia.
We got a Jet on there. I'm really excited for that. Michael Carter was looking really good last week in what was not a great game for the Jets, but he took a big step forward. Kenneth Gainwell, he gets to play the Lions. Play everyone against the Lions always. Damian Harris against the Chargers. You can run on the Chargers. Elijah Mitchell against the Bears. And Javonte Williams versus Washington. If you need a running back, and you always need a running back in fantasy, especially if you're going to start playing daily or anything like that, those are 5 that you should absolutely have circled this week.
If you were lucky enough to get Damian Harris in the middle of your draft, and you were smart because you knew what that guy does when he gets opportunities, you're reaping the rewards now, because he's had a couple fumbles that have put some stain on his season. But if you watch him week to week, he is a hard runner. He will continue to be a focal point of that offense. He is a stud that can win leagues.
I will just quickly note, coming off the bye week, that the Chargers have the worst run defense in the league, so Damian Harris is an obvious start. However, they're getting back their second best run-stuffing defensive lineman, Justin Jones. They're getting back their 2 starting linebackers in Drew Tranquill, and they're getting back their starting safety in Nas Adderley. All of them were out in that Ravens game where they got absolutely gassed the entire middle
true team
of the
employee.
Defense. And I'm going to push back on the Michael Carter, because especially in daily, Cynthia, I want nothing to do with Jets. I want nothing to do with any Jet on that team in fantasy, especially that the Bengals just look like a team that is in rhythm and they are operating at peak performance right now. And the vision of Joe Flacco handing off to Michael Carter, I don't want to stomach it. I don't want to watch it, so I don't want to invest in it at all.
Cynthia, the machine, it has to be factoring in game script and the fact that the Jets being down 21-3 by the second quarter is in play.
But you know who catches short passes?
Okay.
Michael Carter.
All right.
So
They'll bail you out in the receiving game.
The machine routinely makes a fool of me, yet I still push back. I have yet to learn my lesson after a good half-decade plus. Again, NFL.com/Freeland for all of her exceptional findings. Thank you, Cynthia. Now a quick look at third quadrant, 17 through 24, a couple 3-3 teams. 49ers, certainly something we may get into a little bit later at 2 and 4, slipping 2 spots after a tough loss to the aforementioned Colts. But when we return, just ahead of the third quadrant, in that second quadrant, we have got a pile of AFC teams. As a matter of fact, we have 8 for 7 spots. We will each share which playoff hopeful will not be in the tournament. 8 spots or 8 teams for 7 spots. We'll tell you who's out next.
Say quadrant again. Say it one more time.
Quadrant. Well, Week 8 kicks off with an epic matchup between division leaders Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, continuing their winning ways. Kyler Murray, though, and the Red Hot Cardinals starting to reach new heights. It is a primetime battle in the desert. Thursday Night Football, Thursday at 8 on NFL Network, Fox, and streaming on Prime Video. As we are back on Power Rankings presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. Cynthia Freeland already took her shots. Now let's let DC and Mooch get some licks in here, Zeuser.
Gross.
Thanks, Money. Mooch, you and I have looked at this list, and we have some thoughts. So what stood out to you?
Yeah, I have a thought.
A thought.
You know, if you watch the show on Sunday, you know, I talked about the barbecue bowl, all right?
I watched
Kansas City and Nashville, right? The Titans, who has better barbecue? I don't know, but right now the better football team, the Tennessee Titans. They are a team that nobody's going to want to play right now because they've already beaten the 2 teams that represented the AFC in the championship game last year. The Chiefs and the Bills, they beat them both. And you know what? The Chiefs loaded up, tried to stop King Henry, the diminisher, but then they threw the ball. You know, Ryan Tannehill, he's good play action pass, a little ball fake, hand fake. He can do it all. He sells it. And they've got some weapons on the outside with Julio down by the schoolyard and A.J. Brown. So this is a team that is hitting their stride right now. The Tennessee Titans, look out.
So you like the Titans a lot.
A lot.
And a lot of people like the Bengals. But when I look at the Bengals, I see a young team. I do like Joe Burrow. I like Chase. I like all the pieces on defense. But I think that experience matters. And so I think that we have to be a little bit careful for letting these guys creep towards the top of this thing.
You don't want to crown them yet?
They only beat the Jacksonville Jaguars by 3 points, and they lost to the Bears. So if you're starting to put a team in like the top 5, top 10, let's just be a little careful. That's all I'm saying. I like this team. It's a good young team.
You know, it's like, what have they done for me lately? They just beat down the Ravens.
I understand you can only do what you can do, and you only play the teams that are on your schedule, but you got to beat the guys that are at the bottom of the pack to be at the top. All right. So for that, all right, let's wrap it up. And don't forget to catch us on Total Access weekdays. All right, Money and Hanzus, back to you guys.
Thanks, David.
David Carr, you're a handsome man, but I'll tell you this. We don't be careful with the power rankings. Like Dan Campbell against the Rams, we're not afraid to die. We fear nothing.
Yeah, you do. Well, no, I mean, you don't fear anything. You're right. You are, and look, here's what I would
say.
Fearless. As Dan, our fearless leader and the prognosticator extraordinaire and producer of power rankings, I would, look, sometimes you have to look forward. That's what Cynthia Freeland just said in the last segment, right? So look forward for the Bengals. Look at what they have ahead of them, and you see where they're at number 7 right now. Their toughest opponents you see there are at home, Cleveland, and you get the Chargers at home. They have to travel to the Jets. They have to travel to Las Vegas. You see Pitt there in Week 12. What I'm getting at is schedule lays out nicely for them. And a lot of times when you have momentum and you found a rhythm, it's nice to keep building, push that snowball down the hill, and just punch that ticket into the tournament.
I mean, I see the Jets as a layup, as we all do right now, but those are some tough games after that. We're going to learn a lot. If David Carr is right that we're crowning this team a little too soon, they'll come out of that stretch 2-2 or 1-3, but I just don't see it.
And right after Pitt, they get the Chargers at home. My mistake on that, I was thinking about my travel schedule. Look right between us.
All about
here.
money.
This to me is what's fascinating about this week's power rankings, Dan. And prior to the Saints' victory last night, you had all AFC teams at 7 through 12. So you had the Bills as the class of the conference, and then 7 teams behind them, back to back to back to back to back to back to back. And that means one of them will not make it. So we have 8 teams here for 7 spots. Before we get to which team you don't think is going to make it, let's talk about how the Raiders have found themselves behind 5 other AFC teams, even after this nice 2-game run, and why you decided to slot them there at number 11.
I just think the story of the 2021 Raiders, which is still being written, of course, but they start out 3-0, they lose 2 straight, and then John Gruden disappears to parts unknown, and I feel like a narrative got cooked in, like, not only was John Gruden a bad guy for what came out about him, but he never built anything in Vegas, and the Raiders were not a good team. I never thought that. I thought what we saw the first 3 weeks was a team that had steadily gotten better, and now they've won 2 straight under Rich Bisaccia, the interim coach, and I think they were, pound for pound, their 2 best games of the year. So I see a team that is not perfect, but I see a team that is going to win 10 games and is going to go to the playoffs. I like them as one of the wild card teams.
So I guess, I love when we get to say this. I'm going to push back a little bit. You and I just disagree on the Gruden thing. I think he, in talking to former players, both from Tampa and from Oakland when he was there, he is a dominating personality. He is the biggest star on the team, and it is very hard for a player to claim leadership of a team when Gruden is there. He just wants his hands in everything, and he is a dominating presence. And I think when things start going sideways, one of the great, I thought always, failings of John Gruden was him being unwilling to take responsibility. He would regularly point out, well, plays were there, felt like the play calls were good, and sort of, push it onto his players. And I don't think they ever appreciated that. To me, with his departure, it's always just been I don't know, I've always just felt weird about Derek Carr and the way he presents himself in pressers, and I think I now figured it out. He's always been uncomfortable trying to be a leader with John Gruden there, and I think what we're now seeing is someone who has grabbed control of this team, a person that everyone on the team likes a lot, and I think there's something about that harmony,
I think that's a great call because Derek Carr heard the whisper, and Derek Carr is one of those guys that hears whispers in the media. He knew that John Gruden was always poking around for another quarterback, and I thought it was interesting that after this latest win, Bisaccia went out of his way to say Derek Carr is the voice of this team.
Exactly. And I think that is really, I think that is going to do wonders for him the remainder of the season instead of being uncomfortable.
As they go to the playoffs. See, I think you're there. I think you're there with me.
Are the Chiefs going to the playoffs?
Yes, I'm going to give him a spot in the playoffs, but at the same time, I am completely...
I mean, you got to boot one of these teams out, but let's stay with the Chiefs.
And I will. I think that the Chiefs are a mess right now. There's no denying it. I thought there was one moment in the game against Tennessee that really stood out to me. When they were down 27-3, so they were down 3 touchdowns and 3 two-point conversions, and they get bullied into a 4th and long, and they're sending Harrison Butker out for a 57-yard field goal, down 25 points late in the 3rd quarter. And I was just thinking to myself, how did we get here? How did the Chiefs get to this point where they're this vulnerable that they seem this weak on offense? And because of the head coach, because of the quarterback, because of the pedigree of this team and an offensive line that I still think can come together and a defense that can't get worse, I think they have a run in them, but I am shaken, as every football fan that's watching this team is, and especially Chiefs fans. They need to get it together quick.
So here's two things. One, the turnovers, where they've come from, I don't know, but if they don't stop, it's not going to happen. It's that simple. They've already turned the ball over more time. Patrick Mahomes has already turned the ball over more times in 2021 than he had in 2019 and 2020 combined. More turnovers already through just 7 games. My other issue with the Chiefs is they play in a competitive division. I think we both believe in the Raiders. We both believe in the Chargers. And the games that the Chiefs have now lost, right? They are 0-1 in the division. They are 1-4 in conference. They have now lost to the Titans and the Bills. Why is that a big deal? Because those are their outside of common opponents, if that makes sense. So they play the first place team from the AFC South. They play the first place team from the AFC East based on last year's record. They have lost to the Bills. They have lost to the Titans. The Raiders have already beaten the Dolphins. They will host the Colts. Those are the tiebreakers that you have to be worried about. The Chargers will host the Patriots this week. They will play the Texans. So when you lose those games, that's where you start to lose a lot of ground. And when we talk about tiebreakers and who wins a division and who ends up being a wild card team, and that is my big fear about the Colts' playoff hopes.
And that beautiful swag you're wearing, Super Bowl 54. How much things have changed since the Chiefs ruled the football world?
I'm glad you noticed.
Yes,
I'm glad you noticed, because that's why I wore it today. There was purpose to me taking my wife's Super Bowl 54 sweatshirt.
It's a woman's shirt,
with
but
the
he's
wide
wearing
collar
it well.
and wearing it today. Because how quickly things can change.
Money can wear men's clothing one day and women's clothing the next.
Are talking about the
Life
3-4 Chiefs missing the postseason.
By the way, I don't have the Browns. I think the Browns are the team.
That's
if
your
I
team.
had to take one out, it's Cleveland. Just because, I don't know, just something seems off in the mix. And they have all these injuries, and Case Keenum is a good backup. But with a bunch of tough division games coming up, would it shock you if the Browns struggle? I kind of see it happening.
So you say Browns out of these 8 teams.
I
go Chiefs out as it
my
stands
3
right
wild cards: Baltimore, Raiders, Chiefs right now.
And I don't even know what I have. What I do know is we have not talked about the Patriots yet. Mac Jones is far and away, and it's not even close, the best rookie quarterback through 7 weeks of the NFL season, coming off a 300-yard game and a dismantling, a humiliation of the New York Jets.
Stop it. We don't need to.
We will get into teams we have missed thus far on Power Rankings now. We're back on Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. Here we go, our final quadrant. Oh, how the Panthers have fallen. They start out 3-0, now have been winless in their previous 4 and have huge question marks surrounding their quarterback position. Christian McCaffrey cannot get back soon enough. And then the Texans, even though they have a win, and the Jets have a win, you believe them to be worse than the winless Lions.
Yeah, imagine two teams being beneath an 0-7 team or a 0-7 team.
It's a rough deal.
Yeah.
It's a rough deal. Let's go to who we miss. And I know you want to get into the AFC East and the New England Patriots.
Yeah, we just talked about AFC playoff picture, and I think the Patriots are a team to keep an eye on the fringes of the wild. They're not winning that division. The Bills got that. But I think, would it shock me if we're going into early January and the Pats have a chance to get to double-digit wins? Would not shock me. Mac Jones gets better every week. He's earning the trust of Bill Belichick, and we talked about Damian Harris earlier. He's the star of their running game. The defense is getting better. I think the Pats are a pretty good team. I don't like that they ran up the score against the Jets. Bill Belichick's like the oldest bully in the world. But I like this team as an improving squad in the second half.
Like he's got a chip on his shoulder, and unfortunately the Jets will never, ever
Come on,
be rid of it.
What did Robert Saleh do to you, bro?
We said this last week. We said, look, the Patriots had to pick a lane. You can't say you're rebuilding by drafting Mac Jones and then go out and spend $200 million in signing bonuses on free agents. And those free agents are starting to play. You saw the catch from Hunter Henry. He had another touchdown. He's quickly becoming one of Mac Jones' favorite targets. And again, they don't have a lot of elite skill players. So I'm impressed with what Mac Jones is. He is the epitome of, here's the ball, don't try to do too much. Whatever that, you can't go broke taking a profit. Whatever the defense gives you, take. And he's happy to take it. And he'll just underneath all game long. And now the deep shots are starting to come through a little bit, and they're looking like a pretty good team. We mentioned the sweatshirt, how quickly things can change. 2 years ago, 2 Super Bowls ago, the 49ers were in the Super Bowl, and now, man, they look to be in a real tough spot with the Rams at 6-1 in that division.
Yeah, they're in a lot of trouble. They need to go on a hellacious run here. And, you know, the Kyle Shanahan Defender Society, which has many members, many of them respected and the esteemed NFL cognoscenti out here. Nobody wants to say a bad thing about Kyle Shanahan, but how about we put together a team here? How about we put together an offense? And it just seems to me, I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo can play. And you can make another excuse about the weather on Sunday night. There's always excuses around
Colts
San
had to play in it too, and they play indoors.
I mean, I feel like this team is like, we need to pull the Trey Lance emergency lever, but they can't because he's injured. And until that happens, and that's a dice roll, of course, as well, money. We don't know how Lance will play. He didn't play that well in Week 5. They just seem to be in a lot of trouble and really hoping for a miracle with a rookie quarterback.
We were just talking about Mac Jones, and it kind of makes me, I just wonder. You know, they were so hot. They were so hot around Mac Jones. And like, are they really going to trade 3 first-rounders to go up and get Mac Jones? Is that what they're really going to do? And then there's John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan at the Alabama Pro Day sipping their coffee. I'm just wondering if there's any buyer's remorse there, because he is just operating in a manner in which you could totally see him in a Kyle Shanahan offense operating. Not to say that the ship has sailed on Trey Lance. I think he's going to be a great quarterback. It's just interesting.
That's it, because when you think of the player comps, is Mac Jones like what they wanted Jimmy Garoppolo to be?
Probably. Yeah. And instead, 2 interceptions from Jimmy Garoppolo. So there you go. And remember, if you don't get to your team, there's always an opportunity for you to engage with DanHanzus on social media about your team.
No
it's
clown
a satirical piece.
That's an amazing tweet.
That is.
I respect it.
We will get to more of those constructive criticisms next. This is a satire. Love for you to play NFL Knockout, the free-to-play game presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Answer 15 questions about the Buccaneers-Saints game to win exclusive prizes, including a VIP package to this year's Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles. Visit NFL.com/knockout. I can only hope you get the constructive criticism. They'll have some sweet female-leaning swag at Super Bowl 56 like they did in Super Bowl 54, so I could steal another sweatshirt from the way. Thank you, sir.
Nose.
You ready?
I am ready. And again, I don't hand these out. I don't honk the horn. I don't give the nose out unless you are a clown, bro.
Clown bro. You just broed him, and you clowned him.
But I will if you're out of line.
You want to chief him? You want to turbo him as well? William Veritas, your NFL power rankings are a joke. Titans beat the Bills and Chiefs in 6 days, and you kept them at 10. What's up?
All right, William doesn't get the nose or the honk because I get it. I get the frustration.
It's a heck of a 6 days.
But I'll tell you what. I will tell you this. I don't intentionally look to incite Titans fans' money. But when I do, it's not something that makes my day worse.
We all love Mike Keith, play-by-play voice of the Titans as well, and I'm sure he is watching this program right now, and he is steaming.
Beat the Colts, by the way. Take care of business on the road.
And then what?
I promise you, you are in the top 9.
Boy, oh boy. All right, let's get to another one. This one, not as nice. Only correct ranking is Cardinals. The rest is just sad.
All right, well,
I like sad. Sad's a good word.
Sad, but it's almost like a little over the top, so you're going to get it. You're going to get it, bro.
Another
Zach,
bro.
Yeah, well, all right, champ. Here we go, champ.
There we go.
Here you go, big guy.
There we go. Let's rotate him, pal.
I like the waiter sometimes will say to me, what about you, big guy? It's like, that feels like a personal attack. Let's calm down with the big guy.
Maybe it's the outfit. Maybe. You know, that's a big guy outfit you're wearing right now.
Bit.
You know, I'm wearing a little guy outfit. You're wearing a big guy outfit.
Anyway, yeah, I don't have much to say on this other than
that's sad.
Yeah, it's sad.
All right, let's get to the next one. This one reads, yeah, I don't understand how someone gets paid to come up with such terrible rankings.
You know what? Take your clown nose, because I do get paid. The money's not bad, the job's good, and I get to upset people like Taylor Calvin and his wonderful significant other. I can't attack a person.
Can I?
Avatar. When
are you not capable of doing the flick? I have politics for the flick.
I wasn't a dirtbag in high school smoking cigarettes outside Walgreens.
That's you gotta.
All right, I'll try one.
You need the middle finger. You gotta pin it in the. See, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Okay.
Still to come, one last segment. They are our challenge flags.
How about you, big guy? What are you getting?
All right, champ, you want to take on the trade for Joe Flacco by the Jets, see him back in that glorious green for a couple more games with the injury to Zach Wilson. That will be your challenge. I will have something related to that, by the way, that's going to be upsetting for you.
All right, we'll see.
Considerably upsetting.
there's always things to correct. A hell of a win, hell of a good team win. Defense, excellent job of not relaxing in the second half. Special teams, hell of a job.
Could not be prouder of the complete team effort that we've been waiting on all season, and you guys saved it for a road game against the Baltimore Ravens. Hats off to you guys.
He's back. We missed him for a few days, but he matches. It's 7-0, the longest undefeated streak in Cardinals franchise history.
Who they gonna beat the Bengals? Hell of a win. I'll see you Wednesday morning, 7:30.
Good place to be rocking Thursday night, fellas. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Congrats. Y'all get a break.
Time for our challenge flags as we close things up on this installment of Power Rankings. Dan, you're throwing a flag at which team, whom, inanimate object, who gets it?
Well, I challenge you, the audience at home, to have more fun and get more excited than I am to watch Joe Flacco back in my life as the quarterback of the Jets.
Sarcasm.
Flacco acquired by the Eagles in exchange for a late-round pick, and it feels like the Twilight Zone. My franchise was supposed to be moving forward. Instead, they go back in time, a dark time in the Adam Gase era.
Dan, the unheralded nephew of Woody Johnson, my franchise. I am also going to be focused on the Jets. I love listening to the Around the NFL podcast, of which you are part. And boy, was it a highlight moment from this past Sunday night. Just fresh off the loss to the Patriots, a 50-burger at the hand of Belichick. Our man DanHanzus, emotionally invested, just couldn't help himself. It all came pouring out. Look at this.
I'm fed up. I'm at the place where Chris Wessling was with the Bengals, and I have two sons, and I'm supposed to make them Jets fans?
No, you're not. You don't have.
That's what you want me. I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. I'm done. I'm legitimately angry. This is not performative. We have to move on before I get in trouble. I'm not mad right now.
A tip of the cap to my man, the Cess Dog, for sliding in what I have always talked about, DanHanzus, as I throw a challenge flag at you. Where were your sons born?
They were born here in Los Angeles.
Okay. At what hospital?
UCLA.
Where
Medical
were you
Center,
born?
Great facility.
Where were you
born? I was born in New York.
Yeah, where were you raised?
I was born and raised in New York.
Okay, and you went to what games with your dad, who was a what fan?
I went to Jets games with my dad, who was a Jets fan.
Because the Jets stadium was just right up the street from where you guys live?
Right
And
down
then you could go to training camp,
Parkway.
you could see the players, yeah.
It's nice. Hofstra, they trained, yeah.
Kids going to see the Jets out here in Los Angeles? They're native Los Angelinos. They were born here. They
I don't
have
like your
friends
tone.
that will grow up here. SoFi Stadium is
What
right
are you
there.
saying?
I'm saying make them a Rams or a Chargers fan. They're Dodgers fans. They're not Yankee fans.
You know,
They're
that's
not
funny.
Knicks fans. They're Laker fans.
You're so jaded. You're a sports
I'm
atheist
not.
shooting from behind bulletproof glass. There's emotion
You know what
involved
those kids are going to say when they
being
get old
a
enough,
fan.
Dan?
Emotion.
You know what
you
those kids
remember
are going to say?
Take it.
The kids are going to say, hey, Dad, where's my single? Where's my single? Hey, Dad, I don't want your life. They don't want your life. They want their own life, Dan. Let them live the Los Angeles sports fan life. That's it for Power Rankings. Treat your kids better. He's a bad parent.
Oh, wait a second. How dare you, sir?